Hi everybody, this is Joanna. I am dedicating this video to an email I got which was about rising signs or ascendants. Somebody wanted to know about the different rising signs. The reason why rising signs are so important is because that is pretty much the face we show to the world. Our sun sign we're used to knowing because people always say, what's your sign? That's the sun. That's the ego side of us in Western astrology. And that's what I'm talking about today is Western astrology, the tropical zodiac, not sidereal or the Indian astrology, although that's very interesting too. This is all Western tropical astrology that I'm talking about. One of the things about planets in the first house, or your rising sign, is that they not only display our physical appearance, but they also tell people, like, it's kind of like your personality. You know, we've met aggressive people, we've met really soft-spoken, shy people. All of this can be found on the ascendant or the rising sign. Many people are very complex because they have a lot going on there. They have a lot of planets there, a lot of aspects. So I'm going to break it down and go through each sign and each planet and what happens when a planet is in that house. So let's start with Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. If somebody is an Aries rising or has Mars in the first house or Mars conjunct, a conjunction is within 7 degrees, and it's very powerful. The ascendant, this person is going to be very direct. So let's say that someone is a Libra rising, but they have Mars conjunct their ascendant. A Libra is not necessarily really direct, but with that Mars, that's going to make the personality more direct. The thing about Mars people or Aries rising is they're typically on a physical level on the shorter side. There could be a ruddy complexion to the face. And since Aries and Mars rule the head, a lot of times astrologers have noticed that there is a scar sometimes to the head. So that's kind of interesting. If you see that with somebody, quite often they have Mars there or they're an Aries rising. The second sign is Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. Libra is also ruled by Venus, but this comes across very different. Taurus people, or even Venus in the first house, you know, can be very physically pleasing. Taurus is different than Libra in that Taurus is kind of like an earthy kind of sensuality. They're also a little bit on the shorter side. They typically have very full lips. There's just an earthy vibe to them. They're pretty calm people, or they come across. What's inside is, you know, a different thing, but they come across as very calm and kind of flat. You know, like you don't necessarily see that calmness within a fire sign or a water sign. Those people are more out there emotionally. But Taurus is they have a very calming effect a lot of times on a lot of people. And Gemini is the next sign. Geminis, I find, when it's on the rising sign, tend to be smaller. They're smaller people. They're also very good at communicating. So these are people that are like a little bit all over the place. You know, they like to do a little bit of everything. And they're talkative. So if you meet somebody that is constantly talking, and a lot of times they're either a Gemini ascendant or they have Mercury, which rules Gemini, conjunct the ascendant. It also gives a high IQ too with people with Mercury conjunct the ascendant. So they love knowledge and communication. The fourth sign of the zodiac is Cancer. If somebody is a Cancer rising, they tend to have a rounder, fuller kind of a face, rounded kind of features. They're typically very close to the mother because the moon rules the mother and the moon rules Cancer. And these are really intuitive, emotional kind of people. These are the kind of people that might, you know, cry really easy, or they have a hard time, especially when the moon is in the first house. These people have a really hard time hiding their emotions. So you kind of know what they're always feeling, you know. And same thing, like I said, with the moon there. The moon is just a very emotional planet. Like the tides of the moon change. These people also change on a daily basis. They're kind of moody. The fifth sign is Leo. Leos love to make an entrance. You know, the thing with Leos is a lot of times they have a lot of hair. They like to take center stage. They're kind of like the actors, the politicians, you know, all those kind of people. Leo is ruled by the sun. So if somebody has their sun conjunct the ascendant, that's that kind of personality too. Somebody who really likes to be in the limelight. No matter what their career is, they like to take center stage. And you see a strong sun and a strong Leo with a lot of politicians and a lot of actors and stuff when I look at their charts, especially on the midheaven, but that's a whole nother issue. So that's Leo. They're typically pretty tall people, or on the taller side. So let's say somebody is an Aries rising, which is shorter, and then, you know, bring in maybe their ascendant is conjunct the sun, which is giving them that Leo vibe. This is going to give them a little bit more height too. Of course, genetics and all that stuff play a role too, but genetics is, or else it's all, astrology is genetic too. So if you look back at grandparents and stuff like that, there'll be similarities in the chart. So after Leo, we get into Virgo. Virgo is another earth sign. I find these people to, and this is not always the case, so, you know, somebody might get mad or whatever, to be like kind of a longer, linkier kind of a build. They're great at details also. So there are people that, you know, like if you go to an accountant or something like that, a lot of times those people have a lot of Virgo going on, especially in the ascendant. And that is also ruled by Mercury too, but obviously a different vibe than a Gemini rising. But so they're taller, thinner, I have found kind of people. They could be smaller. They appear small boned. I guess that's the way I would describe it, no matter if they're tall or short. After that, we have Libra ascendants. Libra are known as some of the best looking people because of, you know, the sign is the scales, right? And there's symmetry to the face. So it's not necessarily like an exotic beauty or something, or exotic looking guy or something, but there's really nothing wrong with their face, but there's nothing that really, really stands out. The whole thing is just pleasing. It's just a pleasing look to the face. Same thing with Venus there, because Venus does rule Libra also. So on top of that, then we have Scorpio. So Scorpio rising are traditionally, oh, and I forgot to say Libras are tall also. I forgot to say that's an air sign. Scorpio rising are supposed to be on the shorter side, and ruled by Pluto, also ruled by Mars. So an intensity to the personality. I often see with people, Pluto in the first house or conjunct the ascendant, no matter what the sign is there. If Pluto's there, it makes them intense. So maybe a little bit scary sometimes, you know, it just depends on some other aspects that are going on, but they're definitely intense kind of people. And again, traditionally shorter, darker, you know, they always say they have hooked noses, big eyebrows, you know. There's a lot that goes into astrology, but these are just some of the basic. They are a shorter sign for the most part. Next we have Sagittarius. That's a fire sign. They're tall, ruled by Jupiter. So if you see, Jupiter is expansive. So everything that Jupiter touches, it makes it bigger. So these people are generally pretty tall people. They're also pretty optimistic, and I find that a lot of Sagittarius rising people can be lucky in a lot of ways, but these are people that like to be on the go and doing different things, and they just like to have a really good time. So then we have Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So like with Jupiter, it makes everything big. Saturn does a total opposite, and it makes everything smaller. So these people typically with Saturn on the ascendant or a Cap, they're bonier, more angular face. You know, they're real high cheekbones and all that kind of stuff. And they can come across as very serious. Now, remember, the ascendant is how we kind of come across anyways. This doesn't mean that they're super serious people, but the way they come across is very serious. They could be like the life of the party once you get to know them, but when you first meet them, super serious. Work is very important to them, and I find that a lot of Capricorn people or Capricorn ascendants, they feel they're very responsible. You know, they're not really the type that will pay bills late or any of that kind of stuff. And which brings me to the next sign, which is an Aquarius rising is ruled by Uranus, and this is another air sign. Again, these are taller people. Uranus is kind of unconventional, eccentric. The symbol is a water bearer. It's not a water sign. It's an air sign, but the goal is to remain detached. That's why they hold the two water buckets, whatever. It's like not getting wet with emotions. So Aquarian people can be very different, you know, and I've never met two Aquariuses that were, especially on the ascendant, that were similar. The one thing I will notice with all the fixed signs, which is Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, is a stubbornness. You know, all the fixed signs do have that going on. And then, you know, Uranus, though, is different. If somebody has Uranus on the ascendant, Uranus rules electricity. So these are people that when they walk in a room, again, kind of like a Leo, people notice them. But there's these people tend to have problems with electronics if it's on the ascendant. I've noticed that. stuff will shut down or not work, or if you ever, drive by a light and the light goes out, stuff like that. It's a high frequency planet. It also rules astrology. And I had read once that that is the one planet that is most common on the ascendant with famous astrologers and people that are into astrology, because it's unconventional, it's different. So, but they're into technology, they're into humanitarian efforts. Uranus is just a very different kind of planet. It has an erratic orbit too, so it's just unique. And then we come to Pisces. Pisces is ruled by Neptune, and this is again another one of the water signs. And if you have Neptune in the first house, or Pisces ascendant, or Neptune trine the ascendant, or conjunct the ascendant, these people are again very intuitive, but there is almost like a dazed and lost and confused vibe going on to them. So, sometimes it feels like they can, if you meet somebody and they sort of seem like a doormat, or maybe that people can walk all over them or something, a lot of times there's a Neptune thing going on there too. The negative aspect of Neptune is lying. The positive of Neptune is spirituality and creativity and music and metaphysics and all that kind of stuff too. So it really depends on the person, and there's so much to astrology. So this is just what's on the rising sign. And all Pisces they're usually kind of fleshy looking. Water signs in general are. They're rounder, they're fleshier. There's not that real bony kind of vibe going on with the water signs. But and somebody can have 5 planets in the first house too, so they could be like a mix of just everything going on. So these are just some basic things to look for if you're if you're into astrology and you're trying to figure out what people are or what's going on there. I know on my last video I said that people could ask questions. I should have clarified this. I meant more psychic questions. Astrology charts take me about 5 or 6 hours to do. So there was a guy that wrote on there. He got a little angry with me. I have to use somebody else's phone to read this because I was going to try to answer this for him. So this was the question he wrote, okay? He said, okay, here's a question since you're an astrologer. His name's Gary. Hi, Gary, if you're watching. Relocation charts. I moved to Spain from the USA 8 years ago. Transit to my natal chart no longer seemed to work. There was a Mars-Jupiter conjunction on March 20th at 22 degrees Capricorn, and nothing happened. When it went over my 7th house cusp. 7th house is relationships, partnerships, stuff like that. Some astrologers say to only use the relocated chart, sometimes called the locality chart by astrologer Robert Hand, when calculating transits. Now around November 8th this year, there will be a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction at 22 degrees Capricorn on my 7th house. Wondering what to expect, I have calculated my relocated chart to Spain. Just because there's nothing happens when you have a transit it's because that transit isn't a big deal in your chart. So unless I have somebody's actual progressed chart, I have to look at all the different planets, because I could have a transit with Uranus right now, but it means nothing if I'm not looking at where Aquarius is and everything else. So what I was going to do for him, because he said there's a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction at 22, the 7th house is relationships. So this would obviously be a change in a romantic relationship or a business type relationship. These are my cards that myself and an artist named Joseph Prizer created, and they're all astrology based. So I'm going to look at this really quick for him. And there is something with the 7th house coming up. It looks like there is an ending of some kind of relationship coming up with him, and I'm also seeing some kind of change with a work situation too. And again, I'm doing this psychically, not astrologically, because I don't have his progressed chart. He did not put that up there. So and you can only work with what you can work with. But there's something more positive also coming in with money too, and that is through a female. I'm also hearing the name Mary or Marianne around you too. So anyway, he got a little angry because I didn't respond right away, dropped the F-bomb, and I don't normally respond when people are rude, but I was like, you know what, this was kind of my fault because I didn't clarify that I'm not going to be on my YouTube channel writing all day. If you would like to have your chart done, you can go to my website and I'll be happy to do it for you. And make sure you click and subscribe to this channel. And like I said, if you want to ask a psychic question, a real simple one, watch it the next week. I'll read them. I'll definitely read them, and I'll take a look at it for you. I'm going to try to get to as many people as possible. Of course, as usual, if you want to get a reading with me, a full one, just visit my website at Joanna Jared Psychic. So make sure you subscribe and click that little notification. So if you do ask a question or there's something you want me to talk about, and you get notified so we can look at what you want me to tell you, basically. All right, so I want to thank everyone very much for listening. And again, keep writing to me and tell me things that you would like to hear about. And I will see you soon. Thank you. Bye.